Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back here. Another video. I could not think of anything to upload. I know it's been a week. I've been having to work on my old truck some and get parts and a bunch of stuff. But I got asked from a very young angler out there. Something everybody fails to miss. I've seen this video by one other person, and that's tactical bassing. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to go over the rods that I feel every dedicated bass fisherman needs. That's hooked on it for a lifetime, that's in it, and they know they're going to stay in it. Like, bass fishing for me is here to stay. It's where I belong. It's my home. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Alright, so this ain't a budget type deal. It ain't. It just ain't. I mean, if you are a serious angler, you are going to collect over the years rods and reels and baits out the hind end. So, if you're on a budget, this ain't the video for you. I'm sorry. But if you're serious, like, hey, I'm going to do this, I really do enjoy it, I want more of it, and I want to know how can I take it to the next level, um, how can I be more efficient in taking it to the next level. Alright, so number one. Actually, I ain't even going to do these in order. I'm just going to show you rods and why. And explain to you why you need to have a rod like this. It ain't got to be this exact rod. I don't get paid by any of these companies or anything. I don't get discounts or anything like that. It's just my personal preference. So, and we are also talking about fishing around the country in the United States, from Clear Lake in California to Kissimmee in Florida to Lake Champlain to St. Clair to Cumberland to Lake Fork, just to name off a few hot popular places. So, if you ain't already, get you a jig rod. This jig rod is going to be your best friend. And a lot of lakes, they have jig year round. About any lake. They're either on it or they ain't. This is a bait that you can fish year round. It's something you can fish January to January. And by January, I mean like 2020 January to 2021 January. So, the jig rod of my choice is going to be a meat stick by Dixie Custom. It's a 7'7" medium heavy. And I think, yeah, no, this is a 7'7" heavy. My bad. And get you a good reel. It ain't got to be a Daiwa. It can be Shimano, Alba Garcia, Luz, 13 Fishing, whatever you prefer. Just get you a faster ratio. I like a 7. A lot of people like a lower gear ratio for a jig. That way they can really rinse them in. I don't. I like getting that fish in as quick as I can on anything. Alright, so moving on. And I will do honorable mentions at the end of this video. Get you a big swim bait rod, a-rig rod, and a flipping rod. You can just about get all that in one rod. This here is a Cashin. It is a 7'11" heavy. And get you a bigger reel to go on it that holds a lot of line. Because you ain't trying to play with no babies. You ain't trying to catch 100 in a day. When you bring this out, either you're going to be flipping in grass, milfoil grass, Kissimmee grass, hydrilla pads, something that you are actually going to need to flip in. That's why you have that 7'11". You can make a good long, well, not a good long one, but you make an accurate flip, and you also got that backbone to really set it and bring it up out of there. By the way, don't set the hook like that. when you're flipping. Don't just go like that. A little tip, and I actually got asked this also. How hard do you set the hook on different baits? And I'm not getting off topic here, but if I'm flipping and I have a 3 EWG, I'm not just going to go like that. I'm not going to come up like that. A crankbait, I'll just kind of bring my rod around. Top water, same way. Ned rig, I'm using light line, so usually I'll kind of do a quick snap like. But if I'm flipping and got the equipment, the heavy line, the heavy rod, a gut reel, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go up when I feel him. I'm going to give him slack, and everything I got, I'm going to throw my body and my shoulder into it. So usually it's going to go like that. So you just want to turn and bring your shoulder around and hit them with everything you got, because you got to penetrate that mouth with a hook. Alright, so back to the video. 7'11" casting rod. It ain't the lightest in the world. I would get me a lighter rod, but until this one breaks, I'm just not going to dish out money on a lighter rod. I ain't got no problem throwing it all day. I've done it, but you feel it the next day. I actually got paired with a Daiwa Tatula 150, and this here is actually a really good reel because it ain't too big and bulky in the hand. Like, I can easily palm it, like no problem at all. But it has a spool big enough that I can feel comfortable throwing a swim bait or a A-rig, something I'm going to lob out there quite a ways. So that's going to be a flipping, a A-rig, big swim bait if you're into that. That's what I'm going to throw on that. Alright, so another rod everybody needs in their arsenal. That's going to fall. It fell. Is a top water. I mean, not a top water, but a jerkbait rod. And I actually got a top water on here because your jerkbait rod can double as a top water if you get the right rod. But if you're going to be serious about it, ain't caring about how much it costs, get a jerkbait and a top water rod. You cannot go wrong with that. But my jerkbait rods, I do like a little bit of tip on them. As you can see, that rod bends a whole lot. And I like a shorter rod. You won't be able to cast as far, but you're going to be able to work that bait 10 times better. And a lot of people says that ain't true. Well, if I'm working my bait down like that and not having to come up, when you jerk it down, that builds there and that water catches it, and that's going to make it dark. And also you got that tip that plays into it. So while I pick a lighter action rod for a jerkbait, number one, them hooks. It's easy to rip treble hooks out of a fish's mouth. And if anybody says it ain't, they're lying. I'm sorry, it is. Especially when they make that jump, that's why you see so many get off. I don't care if you have the X glass rod or whatever it's called. I don't care if you use a graphite or whatever. It is easy to lose a fish on treble hooks. I mean, you got jerk baits with 2 hooks and 3 sets of hooks. Yeah, you may say, wow, how did that fish get off? Well, it's just easy for them. I don't know the science behind it, but you can literally research it. It's more fish lost on a treble hook than it is on a single hook bait. Best bet, keep that fish down, don't let him jump, and don't really set the hook hard. I don't. More like bring my rod over like sweet, and usually with a jerkbait, that lighter rod, when you go twitch it down, they hit it. And when you go twitch it down again, that sets the hook for them. Just something about it. And especially on big, big, big smallmouth. Usually when they hit it, it's boom, and usually you feel that second tick, that bait's gone out of that fish's mouth. So what you want to do when you go jerk it down, if you feel something, jerk it down again. Usually when that hook goes in them, they make that dive and it finish it. They set the hook on themselves usually. All right, so 6'6". That's the shortest rods I go. Usually a 6 foot to a 6'6", not over a 6'7". I feel comfortable. Well, 6'8". That's the most I go. I know people throws top waters on 7 footer. I don't, because when I'm working that bait like that, I'm keeping it at that depth. When you work it up, because you're worried about hitting the bank or you're worried about hitting the side of your boat, you're making that bait come up. So pair it with your faster gear ratio. The reason why I like fast gear ratios is I can get that fish in faster. The faster I get that fish in, the less time he has to get off. Alright, so I have it paired with a Daiwa Tatula 100 in a 7:1 ratio. Alright, now here's where you money comes into play, really. Get you two, yes, 1, 2 cranking rods. The reason for that is because a cranking rod is so handy. I mean, so handy. Because a cranking rod is so many things you can throw on a lighter rod. I like a longer rod for a crank. I like it not under a 7 foot. And I actually run two 7 footers. This here is a Castaway Tyrannus and a 7 foot. This here is a medium heavy, I think. No, it's a medium. You know it's bad when you got so many rods you can't even remember what action's on them. But this is a medium. I have it paired with a Daiwa Tatula SV. This is in a 8:1, and I like lighter line on my cranks. I like not over 12 pound, and that's strictly because I like my crankbaits to run a little bit deeper. If it says it'll go 14, I like it to go 15, if not 16. And a lot of people says, well, you use a 7 or 8 on a crank. Yes, I do. Well, that's too fast. No, it ain't. How come? Here's why. Because you hear me say it and say it and say it. You can always slow down, just like that. Like, literally, barely turning the handle. Worm gear's barely going along. But you can only speed up so fast. So I'm gaining more line when I get fish on. And in a tournament situation, time is crucial. So you ain't got time to be making mistakes. You ain't got time to be playing around. I totally get if you're spinning rod up there on St. Clair or wherever you are. But that's the only time I play around with a fish. Alright, so reason why two cranks, because you can use a spinner bait, a chatter bait, a crankbait, and you can also throw a swim bait. Yes, not a big Gantarelle or S-Wave or a big hollow body. I'm talking about something normal, something like a 2.8 Kitech or a 3" or all the way up to a 3.8. And what I do, I won't go over a 1/4 ounce on my cranking rods with a swim bait. I just don't like it. It makes my rod heavy. It makes it bend, and I don't like it. Alright, so that there is my first cranking rod. And my second cranking, well, that's actually my swim bait rod, but I can use it for a crank. My second cranking rod is a Denali rocker rod. It's in a 7 foot. This here is a medium. Yep, got it right. Oh, that jerkbait rod was a Denali rocker and a medium heavy. But this here is a medium 7 foot, got paired with a Daiwa Tatula 100 and an 8:1 ratio. And this rod, I can't say enough about it. It's a budget rod. You ain't got to use this rod. It's better out there. But this here does a job. Crankbait, spinnerbait, chatterbait. You can basically watch that rod tip. It go. Alright. And you can also feel it. If you can't feel that crankbait diving, I meant wobbling and hitting stuff, you got the wrong rod. This here's $60. I can feel it as soon as it starts going down. And if I hit a rock, I can feel it. It's crazy. But this here is actually my cranking rod. And I'm not talking about your 10XDs or anything like that. That you do need a glass composite rod. I don't own one because I don't throw them. It is going to be my next purchase. So stay tuned, because before my birthday, before I turn 20 years old, I will own one. I know it's way off for just now in July, but I ain't got that kind of money sitting around. I ain't even researched the rods, but I do have an idea of what I'm going to get, and it is pretty expensive. So stay tuned. Alright, now, moving on. Another rod everybody needs. And I know it ain't going to make sense to you until I explain it. You need a spinning rod, but with the stiffness and backbone of a baitcaster. This here's another budget rod. It's a Berkeley lightning rod, $40, I think. And the reason why I say that, because there's going to be times when you got all your bait casters on deck, you need them. Say you're in a tournament situation, you didn't do good in pre-fishing, you don't know what you're going to need. Alright, the reason why I say a spinning rod with a bait that feels like a bait caster, because it ain't got a lot of bend. It's about an 80-20 rod, which you can do with this, paired up with 8-pound line. Yes, spinning rod with 8-pound line. And I throw mono, and that's strictly because I do a lot with this rod. I can tube fish with it, I can Rico fish with it, I can throw a shaky head with it, and it's just great for all that. If I need to, I can throw a floating worm or whatever. A weightless Senko, that's something you don't see a lot of people throw anymore, is a weightless Senko. Alright. Now, the reason why a Rico or a popper with such white line is because you get a different pitch. It'd do a different style. Instead of staying on top flat, instead of popping like that, I've done it. I'll do a video on it. I promise you. I'll go out there beside the boat and I'll let you see how that popper goes under and comes back up. Goes under, comes back up. A traditional popper goes as it's going. But I can make a popper with a spinning rod and 8-pound line. I'll make it go dunk and come right back up. Dunk. And sometimes that's what the fish wants. It's us experimenting with them. That's something people don't do. So, pick that up. Another thing people needs, and I'm not going in order at all. I'm just grabbing the first thing that I can get my hands on. Is honestly a rod that you can do everything with. And by everything, I mean not like your big swim baits or flipping or anything like that or a rig. I'm talking about You can throw a whopper flopper on, you can throw a spinner bait on, you can throw a jig, you can throw a Texas rig, a Carolina rig, whatever. And that is a good rod. It's more of a backup rod. And I like a 7 footer. I'm comfortable with a 7 footer. This here's a Quantum Tour Edition PT. And it's 7 foot medium heavy. Got paired with a Daiwa Tatula SV and an 8:1 ratio. And I run 14-pound line on here. The reason being, because whatever I need to throw, that's my comfort zone. If I throw a Texas rig, I can. If I want to throw a Carolina rig, I can. If I want to throw a whopper flopper, I can. If I want to throw a buzz bait, I can. If I want to throw a spinner bait, I can. The only things I wouldn't throw on here is like your crankbaits, your jerk baits, spooks, and this would be a good spook rod if you like a longer rod. But crankbaits, jerk baits, stuff like that, it's about a 70-30 rod. I would rate it. And I got asked also the other day, what do you mean when you say 80-20, 60-40, 50-50, 70-30, 90-10? What I mean by that is 20% 20% tip, 80% backbone. 70% backbone, 30% tip. Alright, now, these here, you already know those coming. A lot of y'all's gonna be roasting me in the comments. By the way, please leave a comment what you want to see. I'm running out of ideas and everything like that. Alright, and that's spinning tackle. Get you a medium light rod. I mean a light rod. Just light. Something like 50-50, 60-40. And pair it with a good reel. I would put more money in the spinning reel than the rod. And what you're paying for is your drag. This here's a Stratic. And I can definitely tell the difference between the lower end spinning reels I've used, and that's in the drag. Throwing 4-pound line, it's crucial. It ain't important, it is crucial. And I mean, you will be amazed at the size fish you can get in on light line. I throw 4-pound, y'all already know that. But the reason why I get you a light rod, I like a longer rod. And I throw floating worm, floating flies. You can drop shot with it. You can small swim bait fish it. And it's just amazing. Alright, so moving on here. This here's probably my favorite little spinning rod and reel I've ever owned. I mean, it ain't a budget rod and reel, but it ain't high end. Like what I just went over was one budget rod and reel, one high end rod and reel. I call anything over $300 high end. And this little rod and reel here, it's a Daiwa Arid X 7 foot medium heavy, performs like a medium, and a Daiwa Tatula. But this Daiwa is not a Stratic. It ain't a Shimano. Alright, but the reason why this is my favorite little rod and reel, it's so light, it's so sensitive, it's so amazing. $60 for the rod and $189 for the reel. So you're talking right at $250. And pair it with 4-pound line. This here's an all-purpose rod. When I need to take one spinning rod, this is the one I take, because I Ned rig, wacky rig. I can do anything and everything I want to do with this. Alright, now, last but not least, another topwater rod. This here is going to be a Rico and a spook rod, and it is going to be a little bit stiffer, strictly because if I make a real big bomb cast, I don't need a light rod. I need all the backbone I can get. So that is the time I really set the hook. When I'm below a half a spool on the end of my cast, I really set it. Because you can hold a bait probably about 20, 30 yards, and a guy can just go like that or like this, and you will not get a hook in you. I've done it. Alright, so Dowit's Tula 100. This is in a 7:1 ratio. 6'6", medium heavy rod that performs in between a heavy and a medium heavy, if you get my drift. And I throw 20-pound line. I know it's crazy. I know you're saying, man, on top water 20-pound line? Yeah. Because if you're fishing the outsides of grass, they get in that grass, you'll break off on 10 or 12. I've done it. My pastor, he actually throws braid strictly because of that. So, alright, some honorable mentions in there, that X glass, and I'm going to talk about a little bit of rods and reels here that I've personally used, and if I didn't have the arsenal I have, that I would get. And it's going to be a hint. I'm curious to see how many of you all guess it, or who guesses it, or if anybody can guess it. Leave me a comment. Alright, so a better swim bait rod and reel is going to be a Zodiac and a Chronarch MGL. Hands down the best rod and reel I've used. Another good jig rod is going to be a casting rod. My buddy Ethan has one. It's crazy sensitive, like insane sensitive, and that is that Dixie custom rod blank. He uses a casting rod blank. Alright, so if you want to, you got a lot of money. I don't. Get, by all means, go get your NRX, go get your GLX, go get your Conquest or IMX Pros, and pair them with Chronarchs, Metaniums, whatever you want. Some spinning rod and reels. If you have a lot of money, go get you an X-Sense and all that. Poison Adreno or X-Pride. I'm sure it's going to be better and more sensitive and more light than majority of the stuff I got. I ain't got that kind of money. But now we are going to go into you budget fishermen. Oh, I hadn't forgot about y'all. There ain't no reason to be ashamed. I'm there too. I'm a budget angler. If I can find a deal, I'm going to get it. Alright. Some budget rod and reels. I don't know what y'all call budget. I mean, Black Friday's coming up. You got Christmas months down the road. Some of y'all have birthdays in between now and then. But I call anything $200 budget. And that's strictly because you don't want junk. You don't. And I know that's bad of me to say, but really, if you're really getting into bass fishing, you ain't got time, you ain't got money for your equipment to be failing. When you get that $50 reel, that $50 rod, number one, in the rod you don't get the sensitivity. You don't get the all-purpose rods. And in the reel, you just don't get it. It's not there. Usually, just like Tactical Bassin said, usually when you step up to that 100, that's when you get quality, durability, sensitivity, and long lasting. I know durability and long lasting's about the same thing, but go out there, get you, let's see here, a Denali rocker rod. Those are great. I love them. I can't say enough about them. And get you a Daiwa Tatula CT. you're going to be coming in right at $200. $60 for the rod and $129 for the reel. So you're coming in at $189.99 before tax. You put your tax on there, you're going to be coming in at about $203. Alright. Good jig rod is going to be a Daiwa Tatula one. You know I love the Tatulas, and I actually own one. Those are great rods. They're not the most sensitive. Well, sensitive. Let me spit first. They are not the most sensitive, but they are great. That's $100 rod. Pair it with like a Shimano SLX. You're coming in $99.99. So roughly 100 and 100. That's going to be a little bit over budget, but that there's a great outfit. Alright, another one is that 13 Fishing Fate Black. It's like neon green. Those I think went up in price to like $100. Pair it with a SLX or a KS or a Lose. I highly suggest if you're on a budget, Lose, you cannot go wrong. My buddy Ethan, we had a deal in high school with Lose, and he ordered a bunch of them. They've lasted him from like sophomore year to now, and they are still holding up strong. He ain't cleaned them. He's just like me. Those ain't reels to us. They ain't no babies. Those are workhorses. We put them to the test. If it's a fish break way out there, we try to get to them. We put them in bad situations that's really hard on reels. We don't clean them like we should. I know he don't. I know I don't. And that's why I'm referring to him, because I know he don't mind. I done talked to him. So go Lose. Alright, moving on. Another good budget rod is going to be a SLX rod. Coming in at that $100, and pair it with a Lose. And that there is a good little budget rod and reel. Those there are bait casters. Alright, moving on to get budget spinning rods. That Daiwa Arid X $60 rod. You can get you, let's see here, think of Lose. Their top of the line spinning reel is like $129. So you're still coming in at under $200 before tax. You can get a bunch of Shimanos. You can get Abu Garcias and stuff like that. Alright, moving on. Berkeley Lightning Rod. Get you one of these, $50. Paired up with a Lose or Shimano. I'm really high in Shimano spinning reels, not gonna lie to you all. That is a place where I think Daiwa can step it up. You know, all my bait casters, I have 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 bait casters around me that I went over. Every one of them has a Daiwa Tatula. But Shimano spinning reels, they're just here. Like top of the line, rate them 10 out of 10. Daiwas coming in right here, pretty close. Like my hands are touching. They're coming in at a solid 9. But they just ain't got the drag that a Shimano does. Alright, so get you a Shimano reel. Lose, they're good. They're right under Daiwa. Coming in at a solid 8.5, 8.7. But they do need to step it up to be right there with Daiwa. Alright, so those are some budget rods. Oh, one more. One more I forgot to go over. And I really hate doing rod and reel reviews until I go out and fish with it. But coming in pretty strong, just like that Denali Rocker Rod, another bait caster. that Castaway Tyrannus rod. I've been blown away at the technology, the time, and the effort they put into this $100 rod. This rod here performs way better than a $100 rod should. This performs like a $150 rod to me. That Denali rocker performs like a $100 rod should. Alright, so this here, I just can't say enough about it. Super light, palms really easy. It's not crunching your hands up like you can see it. And if I want to, I can really crunch my hands up. And it's just amazing. The real seat, the handle, the grip, the length, it's just amazing. Now I know what Andrew Flair was talking about when he was in high school. That's about 7, 8 years ago. No, take that back. That was about, 7, 8 years ago. Because I started watching him my freshman year. And that's been 4, 5. This makes my full year out of school. Sophomore, junior, senior. Had that roughly 5 years ago. I started watching him. And even then, his videos was like 3 and 4 year old. But $100 rod, can't say enough about it. Pair it up with your favorite reel. I don't really get into that. But another good budget rod, if you can't make it to that $200 range, it's no shame. I've been there. Get you a favorite Whitebird rod. Those there was $59.99. I'm going by old prices. $59.99. Go to Walmart, get you a Black Max, and it's gonna last you 3 years, maybe 4. I have not seen one go over 4 years without something going out. Unless you take really good care of them or don't fish them. So that there's about 120. So I'm gonna go over like one $150 to $175 rod and reel. If you're close to a 200 but you can't quite make it, and that's gonna be a Lew's Classic Pro, $60. And we'll actually back up, Austin, before you get into that. That Classic Pro and Denali rocker rod coming in 120 before tax. Alright. So here's where two rods and two different companies really butt heads. Favorite Whitebird. You knew it was going to be in here. You knew I was sponsored by Favorite years ago. And I fished them. Loved them. But that Favorite Whitebird coming in at now, crazy. $69.99. Really? Alright, but $69.99. Some, depending on where you get them, $79.99. Alright, so pair that up with a Lew's Classic Pro or a Shimano Chaos. That new Chaos, I haven't got my hands on. I've felt it in a store, felt butter smooth, felt amazing. Don't know durability, but the caning I had back when I was a sophomore, I loved it. I wish I wouldn't have got rid of it, but those right there and that Denali rocker rod butt heads, they are so close, but I like that Denali just a pinch better. But Favorite does offer more of a selection. You can jig fish, you can do everything with that Whitebird. It's so many models, so many lengths, so many actions that Denali does not offer in that rocker rod. So that's where I do give Favorite a step up, but in sensitivity, I give that Denali overall, and that's what you are after. Alright, but nonetheless, this here is a really long video. Didn't plan on making this 40 some minutes long. But me and my mouth got to rambling, and it just went on and on and on. So I'm going to go ahead and do a spicy outro as I always do. As always, be sure to give God all the glory, be safe, have fun, take somebody fishing, do something nice for somebody. I don't care if it's saying hi, how you doing, howdy, or I don't care. Just do something nice for somebody and it will come back for you. Alright, but as always, check out, actually, I got some merch here. Check out Kurt Singer Sunrise Outfitters, Dog Patch Trading Post, and Saddlebrook Outdoors. And as always, a tackle spot. Be sure to have a good day, be safe, and I am out. Boom.